From an exile freed from captivity, you became the man who single-handedly managed the treasury of the world's most powerful kingdom. It all began with the most flawless game of trust history has ever seen. The year is 1671. You are born in Edinburgh, the son of a goldsmith and moneylender. Your name is John Law. Your family's income comes not only from dealing in gold, but also from lending money. Even as a child, you learn how money multiplies and how interest works during dinner conversations. You lose your father at a young age. You realize you must become stronger, but you have no real financial worries. After all, your father left his fortune to your family and thus to you. This inherited wealth grants you both freedom and a dangerous habit, gambling. You move to London at a young age. You have many advantages. You're both intelligent and handsome, but more importantly, you have a mind that works like a calculator. You make your presence felt at the city's most exclusive clubs, at the tables where the biggest risks are taken. You've turned probability calculations into an art form, and you have no rivals. But in these years, when you need a brilliant career for a brilliant future, everything comes crashing down in 1694. Before you even turn 23, in a confrontation sparked by a woman, your rival vanishes from the scene that very night. And just when everything was going so well, you suddenly lose your freedom and are sentenced to the harshest punishment. But by refusing to submit to your fate, you find a way to emerge from that darkness, never to return. The doors of England are now closed to you. As a man who lost everything, your name, your status, your future, in a single night at such a young age, you find yourself seeking refuge in other countries across the European continent. Amsterdam, Venice, Paris, Turin. For more than a decade, you continue to roam the continent's most mysterious salons. You're so skilled at calculating the odds in dice and card games that your name quickly spreads in every country and every city you visit. But for you, games of chance are not merely a source of income. In Amsterdam, you observe how the banks operate. With your sharp intellect, you watch how the stock markets breathe and how these operations unfold, grasping everything. You realize that a piece of paper in a merchant's hand changes hands faster than the gold in his pocket. An idea matures in your mind. What enriches a nation is not the weight of its minerals. The real key is trust. Paper, when backed by the right institution, can hold as much value as gold, perhaps even more. You compile this idea into a book and present it to the Scottish Parliament in 1705. It is rejected. Naturally, no one allows someone willing to take risks to redefine money. You had already anticipated this would happen. You don't throw this idea away. You tuck it away and continue waiting for the right kingdom and the right crisis. And the year becomes 1715. You are now 44 years old. King Louis XIV of France passes away. The Duke of Orléans, serving as regent for the child king who succeeds him, inherits a country burdened by a massive debt. The treasury is empty, the people are overwhelmed by taxes, and the country's prestige is in tatters. You head to Paris at precisely this moment. You convince the Duke you can now reinvent money. 1 year passes. May 1716, you establish your own private bank, the Banque Royale. You print paper banknotes and guarantee they can be exchanged for gold. Taxes can now be paid with this paper currency. And most importantly, trust begins to build slowly. Merchants, nobles, and even peasants start to accept this new currency. Another year passes, and it is now 1717. You decide to take another step forward. You establish a company to develop the French territories in the Mississippi Valley, the Compagnie d'Occident. The imagined wealth of Louisiana, gold mines, endless farmland, becomes the stuff of legend on the streets of Paris. Shares go on sale. Everyone wants a piece of the action. Another year later, in 1718, the bank is no longer private. The crown takes you over, and its name becomes Banque Royale. You're still at the helm of the bank, but you now have the backing of the state as well. That same year, the company also secures a monopoly on the tobacco trade. In 1719, you press on without slowing down. You bring together the old companies involved in trade with China and the East Indies under your own umbrella. The company's name is now the Compagnie des Indes, but on the street, everyone still calls you the Mississippi Company. All trade outside of France is concentrated in the hands of a single man. In October, you purchase the country's tax collection rights. In December, the share price reaches 10,000 livres. A share that was worth 500 livres just a year earlier has increased in value nearly 20-fold. The streets of Paris descend into madness. Quincampoix Street overflows with people eager to buy and sell shares. The crowd grows so large that barriers are erected at both ends of the street. The servants, coachmen, and tailors on the street all become wealthy overnight. It is said that one coachman hired 2 separate coachmen just to drive him around the city. A new word is born in the French language, millionaire. Your own fortune grows at the same rapid pace. You purchase one of Paris's most magnificent mansions, dine at the same table as the nobility, and even the ambassadors of a country. England, that once issued an exile order against you, line up to meet with you. But beneath this splendor lies a sense of tension. Everyone asks you for a favor. Everyone knocks on your door. Yet no one truly trusts you. After all, you've earned a reputation for staking your life on probabilities. You're aware of this and accept it. It doesn't really bother you. After all, you're the one whose door is being knocked on. It is January 1720. Your rank rises. You are now the French Minister of Finance. You've now reached a position where you single-handedly manage the country's finances, its debt, and its treasury. You, who once fled the country under a decree of exile, are now the sole master of a kingdom's economy. Your sharp intellect, which considered every possibility that brought you this far, has now transformed into a performance before a crowd. You're in constant contact with the public, the court officials, and foreign ambassadors. You continue to strive to solidify trust, the key to this whole endeavor, as much as possible. But none of this crowd is your true partner. The pinnacle is the loneliest place. Everyone wants something from you. No one tells you the truth. As a foreigner, as a man branded as someone who was once exiled, you know that even the slightest mistake will be unforgivable for you. The crack in the system lies in the system's own logic. The bank constantly prints new paper money to finance stock purchases. In return, there is no real production, no real gold reserve. By early 1720, paper money in circulation reaches 2.6 billion livres. In contrast, the total value of all the coins in France's possession is only about 1.2 billion livres. The balance has long been disrupted, though no one speaks of it openly. In January, some investors begin selling their shares to convert their profits into gold. As prices start to fall, you panic. You limit gold payments to 100 livres and issue decrees requiring people to hand over their gold and jewelry to the bank. You manage the panic quickly this way. But these measures do not restore confidence. They only fuel suspicion. The wealthy quietly convert their fortunes into real estate, jewelry, and foreign currency. The Prince de Conti sends 3 cartloads of paper money to the bank to exchange his banknotes for cash. This news spreads instantly throughout Paris. Everyone wants to do the same thing at the same time, convert their paper money into something tangible before it's too late. You watch as the system you created is now choking on its own hands, but there is no turning back. Every new measure adds another spark to the fire of panic. May 1720. You make a desperate decision. You issue a decree to gradually halve the value of the banknotes. The state's official acknowledgement that its own currency is worthless seals the fate of everything in the eyes of the public. Crowds storm the bank's doors, and a stampede ensues. The decision is rescinded within a week, but it is already too late. That same month, you are removed from all your posts. It seems as though the destruction of everything you built was always your fate. Throughout the fall, stock prices melt away. They drop to 2,000 livres in September and to 1,000 livres in December. The servants who once hired coachmen now realize that the papers in their hands are worthless. Your competitors seize the shares of investors who cannot prove they've made their payments. France's currency is established and collapses within 4.5 years. December 1720. You quietly leave France at midnight because you realize there's nothing else you can do. In your suitcase, there is neither a fortune nor a guarantee. only a memory of having once been the world's most powerful financier. You settle in Venice. You return to the old gambling tables, but the money you win no longer grows as it once did. The man who once managed a kingdom's treasury now plays for small stakes at the table. This situation weighs heavily on you. The year is 1729. In Venice, you pass away in poverty. The legacy you leave behind is a mixed one. Were you a pioneer who proved the power of paper money, or the architect of Europe's first major speculative disaster? France will speak your name for years as if it were a nightmare. For a long time, the very word banking will be synonymous with mistrust in the country. Your story is not simply one of greed. You were a man who saw how trust could create money, but failed to account for how that same trust could vanish in an instant. Absolute control opened every door for you: the kingdom's treasury, the king's ear, the people's pockets. But no door was enough to prevent your downfall. You, who once lost everything with a single move at a gambling table, repeated the same mistake 30 years later on a much grander scale, using a kingdom's wealth. You, who built a system all by yourself, were forced to bear the burden of your own downfall alone.